Hey, how's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Are you interested in changing the handlebar of your Honda CRF300L? So then stick around, that I'll show to you the step-by-step on how to do it at home. Let's get started. Now, very important, so you don't waste your time watching this video. This video here is going to be direct to the point, just the step-by-step how to change it. If you're still in the process of trying to decide which is the correct handlebar for you, I strongly recommend that you first watch the video here on the channel, CRF300L handlebar guide. I think that's going to be very useful for you. First thing we need to do is to remove the handlebar from the motorcycle, and you have to account for any modifications you have already done. So for instance, on my motorcycle, I have the Barkbusters handguards installed, so I'm going to start by removing them. Just adapt to whatever modifications you have already done. By the way, if you have the original handguards and you're feeling a bit confused how to remove them, just check here on the channel the video where I show how to install the Barkbusters, because in there you also have the step-by-step how to remove the original handguards. Let's remove the side mirrors, and you need a 14mm spanner. Let's remove these cable clips. You have two, one on each side. Here you can see the mechanism to remove them. There's a little clip in the back. You need to lift this clip like this, and then you're able to pull the clamp out. If you don't do that, then it's locked, so lift and pull. 8mm socket. Let's remove the clutch lever. You're still looking at the clutch lever. You're going to have two cable connectors, so you need to pull them out. Just wiggle them and pull at the same time. Now maybe you need to use a plier, so just go carefully, grab on it and then wiggle. But don't apply a lot of force. There it is. Same idea on the opposite side. 8mm socket. Follow this cable, and then you'll notice that you also have two additional connectors. Let's remove them as well. So here you have a view from underneath. And you can see the connector right here. So once again, carefully. To get the controls out, you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. And you're going to have two screws, one on each side. Be careful that together with this screw, there is also a washer, so you don't want to lose the washer. And the same thing for the opposite screw, there is also a washer. These screws are both the same size, so the mounting order doesn't matter. Once you have removed the screws, now we can crack it open. So this is now a very fiddly part. If you take notice in here, we are going to have the throttle cables, and you have one coming from above and one coming from underneath. But there is no slack for you to pull them out of their housing. So they sit inside a little groove in here, and there is no slack on the cable for you to pull them out. In order to get this slack, look what we're going to do. Now looking here on the right side of the motorcycle, you're going to take this adjuster in here, and we're going to unscrew it. So like this, anti-clockwise, we're going to unscrew this one here all the way, so we can release the cable from the throttle valve. Once you have unscrewed enough, then you should be able to just pull it out of its housing like this. Then you should be able to guide it out of its housing like this. And this is the slack that you're looking for to remove the throttle tube. Since now we have sufficient slack, we can just pull this cable here out of its place like this. And then the next one is quite easy. So now you can remove the throttle tube. Now let's do the opposite side. Same idea, Phillips head screw. Here's the first screw. These screws have the same size, so there is no correct order. Once again, crack it open. Turn the handlebar to the left, and then you need a 12mm socket. So if you see here in my case, I'm unable to catch the screw going straight with my socket. So in this case, I'm using a spanner, because in the spanner I can go underneath like this. So let me show to you, in case you want to try removing the original grip without damaging. You're going to need compressed air, and then you need this pistol with this nozzle in here that you're going to insert between the grip and the handlebar. I'm also using some WD-40 to help with the lubrication. Then I can get it out. So at this stage, we can start mounting the new handlebar. Here's a very important tip or point that you need to consider when clamping your handlebar. So the handlebar is held by these two brackets in here, but you have to notice that there is a correct position for installing this. So it does matter if it is this way or the way around. And for you to identify this, you can actually see it, but just to give you the dimensions, one part of it, one side of it, has about 18mm, and the other side has about 19mm. So there's a 1mm difference. The thicker side, so that has 1mm more, has to go mounted up. And the way you're going to apply torque in here, first you're going to bolt it down the top bolt, and then after the bracket is making contact with the motorcycle via the top bolt, you put the second bolt, the lower bolt, and you torque it down. So here I'm starting with the top bolt. I'm gonna check which is the thicker side. So here it is, the 19mm is on this side, so it's thicker. So that's the one that goes at the top. So now I'm going to align the handlebar. I have aimed to angle my handlebar more or less parallel with my front suspension, with the front forks. See, it's a little bit angled towards the front, but not that much. So it's following my suspension. Now we have to mount all of the controls, so that includes your brake lever, also the electronic controls in here, and also your throttle tube, and also if you have some handguards. So all of this has to come back in place. The challenge will come from the following fact. If you look at your control in here, right here on this metal part, you're going to notice that there is a little tab or a stud, whatever you want to call it in here, but it's like a little dimple. And this dimple needs a hole at the bottom here of your handlebar for it to fit inside. So the idea is that this dimple fits inside the hole in the handlebar. And the reason why that's going to be a bit fiddly is that the new handlebar does not have this hole, while the original, of course, already comes with it. You cannot have your throttle tube sticking out of your handlebar. So if you see in here, I'm showing some of the handlebar, and like this, I'm covering completely. The reason is, when I now take my handguard, and I just put it here in place, what you don't want to have is that your throttle tube is touching the sidebar, this aluminum bar in here, of the handguard. The reason is, otherwise it's not going to run freely. So if this would be pushing, if my throttle tube is pushing against the handlebar, I have the risk that it's going to catch on it, so it's not going to spin freely. So you need to have a little bit of space. Here, a real close-up shot, you can see I want to have a little bit of the handlebar exposed, like this. Let's see. So now that the throttle tube position is defined, I need to take the housing. Only one cable of the throttle tube connected to my housing. This, and with the throttle tube in its right position, this now gives me an idea of where this little tab, this little dimple, it's positioned. So here's a view from underneath. Right there, you can see this dimple. You see? Where it's touching against the handlebar. We need to make a hole for this little guy in there. So here I'm taking an electrical tape. I'm positioning the throttle tube in its correct position. And then I'm checking here where this little tab is, this little stud is. And that's where I'm going to wrap the handlebar right where it overlaps with this little tab. So that would be in here. So now I can remove everything. So this little tab, I know it's going to touch somewhere in here. So I'm going to wrap a little bit of tape around my handlebar. So now that the tape is positioned, we really need to assemble the throttle tube with the controls, close it, and then press the controls. So this little tab is going to make an indentation on our tape, and then we're going to make a hole where this indentation is. There it is. So now we have connected both cables. Now we are going to close the housing. So there we have it. Now I'm taking the screws of the housing. And here you can see more details. You see, for me, this is too low. Look where the start button is. It's really too low. So I definitely need to bring it a little bit up like this. Now you see it gets to be more comfortable. So that's the angle that we're playing with. Just hold the control in place. And now we are going to press the two parts of the control. We're going to press them against the handlebar. And the idea is that we're going to make this indentation right now against the tape. Now I'm tightening the screws of the housing. Once again, I'm checking everything is fine. Now let's disassemble everything again. So now let me show to you where this indentation is. So if we come here underneath. So right here, you can see where we have an indentation. See, right this part here. So that's where we need to make the hole. Everything that we have done on the right side needs to be replicated on the left side, including finding the correct position for the hole on the left side. And the hole we're going to drill here on the left side is only 5 millimeters. To make the hole, you have two options. Option one, you leave the handlebar here on your motorcycle, then maybe use a battery-powered drill, so you come from underneath. You do have to be careful because of the shape of the handlebar, since it is round. You don't want the drill to slip out of its place, and that can happen. So to avoid making any mistakes, the way I like to do it, I'm going to remove the handlebar and then do it properly at the workbench. So here I'm punching where I want to start the hole. So I'm starting the hole with a 2 millimeter drill bit. I'm going to remove the tape. So here you can see the beginning of the hole. So here you can see when it's finished, there is no need for you to go all the way through. So you don't need to punch it through. It's just the start of it. So it is enough to fit the little tab at our controls. Before we connect the throttle cables to the throttle tube, just don't forget that here underneath, the lower cable is disconnected. So we have plenty of slack up there. First, I'm going to connect this cable. Just find a place inside the housing. And now I'm going to connect the next cable, like this. Find the correct position against the handlebar, and now we can close the control. So now we can reconnect this cable to the throttle valve. So just hook it back in place, like this. And now we have to screw this adjuster once again. So once you're finished, here's how it should look like with everything connected. And your throttle tube should be snapping back to place. Now let's reconnect the brake lever. Now let's reconnect the electrical cables. Reattach the cable clip and make sure that you have enough slack for this cable. Let's put the mirror back on. Now find a good angle for the throttle cables. So you want to have them coming out in a natural way. Once you're happy with the position, 14mm spanner. Now adjust the free play. The free play is how much the throttle tube moves without actually accelerating the motorcycle. So I'm happy with this amount of play. And that is the step-by-step on how to change the handlebars on your CRF300L. If this video was useful to you, if you got some value out of it, really appreciate it if you can leave it your like. Maybe consider subscribing. I have lots of videos about maintenance on the CRF300L, and I see you on the next one. Bye-bye.